Welcome. I'm the Falcon of the West.
And I'm the Prince of Precision.
And we are the Attack Action Podcast. Hello. How's it going?
Great. Straight off the calling.
Yeah. Getting used to the new intro, right?
Hey, you wanted to go first.
I know, but then you looked at me like you didn't know what to do. So, yep, here we are.
Anyway, this is a very exciting episode. We're coming off the calling and breaking into the new Tales. Well, no meta yet, but the new Tales release, the new future of the game incorporating Tales of Aria, and we have a lot to talk about our long weekend at Vegas as well.
Hell yeah. Yep. So this is one full week after we were just at Vegas, the calling at Vegas, Vegas calling, Las Vegas Fab. I don't know, hashtag. And so we've had a whole week to kind of gather our thoughts about the whole thing and really stew, like that, in our feelings, in our emotions. And now we're ready to unload all of those juices from the stew.
That nice brew of
yeah.
Calling emotions.
Totally. Different. If you can feel the different energy right now in the pod, it's because we have a whole new audio setup and we're across the length of the table from one another. So that's why we're not like our typical move is 8 inches from each other's face, talking into one microphone, very Lady in the Tramp-esque, romantic, as you will. So that's why it's a little different for us.
We can feel the distance. But thank you, Patreon members. We got another mic for our podcast, so hopefully we'll improve our audio quality across the board for our different productions. Also, this is a morning pod because we have a Tales release later this afternoon, which we're pretty psyched on.
Whoop, whoop. Shout out to Oasis, Hidden Oasis Gaming in McKinleyville.
Right. But if there's a different vibe, I'm having a cup of tea this morning instead of a beer, like usually with the pod. So, a little different flavor.
Totally. I can't remember which fan it is who hates it that we talk about how the pod's going, but maybe that's Mike Popovich.
We're just... What's up, Mike?
We're just getting our feet under us. Okay, so welcome to our podcast. If this is your first episode, it's always weird like this at the beginning. So don't keep it going. It's about to get spicy.
It only gets better. We just set that bar pretty low, and then you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, by the end. Yep.
Welcome to that ride.
That's also our dating technique. Okay, so we're going to start out with some shout outs. We're going to move into the news, and then our main topic will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the calling. And so we're going to talk about everything from our performance to the vibe to how great it is to have Colin as our friend in real life, not just over webcam, all of that stuff.
Yeah, this will be a kind of a more free flow discussion on all that because there's a lot to unpack.
Yep.
With all of that. So rather than a technical play-by-play or, we're just going to kind of cover all of it.
Totally. Nobody wants me to recap the 11 rounds of Swiss that I participated in. Spoiler alert, I made day 2. Okay, so top of the show, shout-outs. Isaac, who you shouting out?
First shout-out is to Brendan.
Brendan
for Patrick.
Nice.
Of Arsenal Pass.
The old BP, as I like to call him.
For his very impressive showing in the Road to Nat season. Taking home 4 Road to Nats with that chain deck is like very impressive. I thought particularly because the Monarch meta is like pretty, I don't know, like the game to pull out that kind of consistency in a very wild, aggro, sometimes high rolly meta, I thought was like pretty impressive, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
So that was a very good showing, and like the hard work putting in that deck, or the hard work put into that deck to, you know, again, just like pull out that kind of, those kind of results, you know, time and time again is, you know, very well done. So great job, Brandon.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And we got to hang out with Brendan at the calling.
Right.
And he's a delightful human being.
Yep.
And would hang out with him again.
Yep.
And that kind of is a nice segue into, I was just on Time in the Round, which is the Arsenal Passes YouTube exclusive freeform podcast. So you get to see my face, which is pretty fun. And yeah, I sit down with Hayden and Brendan, and we also talk about the calling and future meta and you know, other stuff and that sort of thing. And it was pretty fun. It's about an hour long. So if for some reason you only listen to our podcast and not theirs, go listen to theirs. Right. So there's that.
3 people out there that listen to us and not them.
Yeah, totally. Well, I would like to shout out my main man, Chad. I played him on Sunday in the final round of Swiss for a Tales of Aria draft. And he was a super chill dude, even though he was like kind of freaking out. He was like late to the table and just playing really fast or whatever. Probably tired like we all were from how much flesh and blood. But he was the only person to be like, oh, shit, you're Taylor from the Attack Action podcast. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, yeah, I love your podcast. So big shout out to him. Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. You're the number one fan in my heart as of this moment. Could change anytime. I'm fickle. So be glad you're number one right now. That's what I got. Thanks, Chad.
I'd like to shout out lastly, Chris, Putt Gremlin on Discord. It was very nice to meet you. You're a very nice dude. We'd played a couple of webcam games, you know, but had never met in person. And yeah, thanks for coming out, saying hi. Speaking of our Patreon little community, Discord is growing and still, you know, quite the delightful place to hang out, chat about Fab, chat about everything, pick up a game now and then. We're going to try to have a sealed tournament pretty soon here. Or next month
yeah.
on our
October.
On our Discord. So if you you know, appreciate our podcast and, you know, for the price of a beer or a cup of coffee, want to support us, join our Patreon.
Yeah, totally. It's really, really fun. You get all kinds of cool rewards like stickers or a playmat. And it's all original artwork, so that's also really, really fun. So yeah. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Sorry I couldn't hang out more. I was just in the zone too much to really schmooze with you, so hopefully it was an adequate amount of schmoozing. But we should schmooze some more later.
Speaking of Taylor's face online and schmoozing, good segue.
Yeah.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Oh, nice.
We are launching a companion podcast to our podcast on YouTube, because apparently you need to do things on YouTube to get launched into the stratosphere of this business. So our good buddy Colin, thank you so much, Colin, is our partner in that department and on board with production and appearing on our new once a month YouTube podcast.
Yeah.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, totally. So typically our podcast audio style, the Attack Action podcast, part of the Attack Action Network, is quite long form and ridiculous sometimes, to say the least. And so what we're going to do on YouTube, we're calling it the reaction step. And that will be a singular topic focused video that'll be more short form. So really capping it at an hour, and we'll be talking about a single topic the whole time, and it'll be a bit more focused and that sort of thing. So it'll just be like us talking about topics or reacting to certain things or whatever. And we're aiming for once a month. Could be more. Probably do some gameplay videos and stuff too.
Right.
So yeah, just trying to expand the network and our catalog, I suppose.
Right. Sometimes we have one too many topics to discuss when things are pretty busy on our podcast. So it'll just be more digestible portions.
Yeah. And we'll have like a third person to have a bit more parody with and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you guys get to also become internet friends with Colin, which I think is like the right first step to do. And then you become real life friends with Colin at the calling. And it's great. So I recommend that pathway of friendship.
Yeah. Is that adventure highly recommended?
Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah. And as Taylor alluded to, we're also going to be producing some gameplay videos and deck techs and the like. We're going to start off with some sealed. And anyway, all of this is made a lot easier with a third person involved. And Colin's very good at what he does and producing this type of content. So that's very exciting for us.
Yeah. And our first episode should be coming out sometime next week. And we will be exclusively talking about the Tales of Aria set. So we'll be talking about all the limited play action we got in. So we got to play the world premiere. We got to do a draft at the calling, and then we will be doing a pre-release weekend as we're recording this podcast. So we should have quite a lot of hands-on experience before the set drops, and so we'll be talking about that.
Right.
Last thing on
news?
that. Yeah, we do have a bit more news. But the last thing with the reaction step is we're going to be doing a giveaway on there. And the details for that, we're giving away a custom Johnny Blue Razor t-shirt, size large, because we just have an extra. So if you are cool with wearing size larges and that sort of thing, go check out that video and a chance to win a free t-shirt. All right. And then the last bit of news is we know the Nationals format.
Oh, right. You want to just pitch that? And
yeah, so this could be a topic for a whole podcast, but I just think it is really, really interesting that we're doing, it's a dual format. So it's draft and constructed, right? So you'll do 5 rounds of constructed Swiss, 5 rounds of draft pods, and then back to constructed, back to draft. Just insane.
Which is awesome.
It's
to me,
so cool.
That's the best format they could have done.
Yeah, totally. It's I still am pretty sure I'm not going to make nationals, unfortunately, this year. But if that's the format moving forward for all national events, it makes me want to qualify even more. That's just so cool. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got.
Also, I've seen online a lot of people have been asking. The Tales Unlimited is only confirmed for Q4. I've seen like a lot of people saying November, late November maybe. So anyway, if you're wondering like when Unlimited product will be available, it won't be for a little while if you're trying to compete in nationals, but it's coming pretty soon.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our main topic.
Let's do it.
So, calling Vegas. We're there Friday. We show up Thursday. The rest of the crew is there. So give me briefly your Friday rundown.
Of the Tales.
Yeah, without spoiling our YouTube video, but that's Friday, yeah.
Right, gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, we showed up and it's the Tales draft started at 1 maybe.
Yeah.
And The whole thing was really amazing with the COVID protocols. They only had 4 people per table, and it was like pretty spread out in a very high ceilinged large room. It never felt like claustrophobic or cramped or stuffy, while having 1,000 people in a room, it still felt like just fine all the time, which was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, that's, I think, the insane part, right, is, also, me and you got COVID tests, COVID negative, amazing.
Right. Do not have COVID.
Yeah.
And had a great time.
Masks work. It's crazy. Yeah, insane. Sold out, right? Like 900 plus people at the world premiere. Like, incredible. The energy was palpable. My excitement was uncontainable. I was just talking to strangers at my table who were super uninterested in talking to me. And it was like really hard to hear one another because it was so loud and, all this other stuff. There were so it was so exciting that I didn't even realize it basically took us 2 hours to play our first round.
Totally. The execution of the draft was a little, but yeah, on that point, there's definitely like 2 types of people, right? One type are psyched and very friendly and like kind of wanted to get to know you more than like start the game on time or hang out, which was awesome. And then some people who are, maybe just introverts or whatever, but like very uninterested in chatting it up.
Yeah.
Which is also okay. Sometimes I can be like that if I don't have too much to say.
Right. Yeah. No knock on them, but yeah, so the only thing, we're not going to talk about our games or the cards or that sort of thing. Or maybe we will, but so I wound up with a Briar sealed pool and went 4-2. Probably actually could have gone 5-1, but that first round I just didn't know the cards and didn't care.
Yeah, it was really tough. I had just got done reading all of my cards and sorting them and kind of just conceptualizing them. And then he's like, 8 minutes left to deck build.
Right.
Over that, because it was still half an hour, but you don't know a single card. So I played Oldheim, and I went 4-2 also. I think I went 3-0 or 4-0 and then lost. Once I got to the top tables, it was all Briars. And I got pretty whomped by those good decks up there.
Yeah. Yeah, in logistically, right? I mean, it was supposed to be 6 rounds of 30-minute Swiss, right? And we were there until almost 8. It took 7 hours.
Yeah, it started at 1 past 8. I think we were there past 8.
Yeah.
It was some of their other tournaments went pretty smoothly and they kind of moved it along, but that one was just a nightmare of... Yeah. I mean, I had a blast. It was fun anyway, but it was just you don't need to be there for 8 hours for 6 rounds of Swiss.
Totally. Logistically, a failure.
Yeah.
For sure. But it was still really fun. And then we went and had dinner with Brendan, Patrick, and Dante Delfico.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
I don't even know if Brendan actually listens to our podcast. Dante for sure doesn't. So anyway, we had a very lovely dinner, and we got back to the Airbnb, which was pretty rad. It was a 10-minute walk from the convention center.
Shout out Taylor for booking us an Airbnb within walking distance.
Hell yeah.
Even when it's 106, still walking distance.
Yeah, it was great. It was definitely the right call because we got to make food and have a couch to sit on and a table to play games at and stuff. We were really living the calling dream this time around for sure.
Yeah, it was a good setup.
Yeah. So that was Friday, a bit longer than I really wanted it to be.
I was also just more tired just because it went so long and it was very stimulating and just having to think pretty hard about all these new cards and stuff playing. Just overall at the end of that day, I was more tired than I had expected going into Saturday.
Yeah, I was so tired. I couldn't do the bit of homework I wanted to do, which was write out my sideboard, submit my deck list, etc. I had to do that in the morning, which added a bit of stress, but I will say that actually playing those sealed games in a like more casual environment and just like how sealed makes it so you have to kind of play just like fundamentals was actually, I think, a pretty good warm up for the calling, just to like get in the tournament environment, play some Swiss, get some just fundamental reps, like blocking, pitching to set up your deck, etc. I think was actually pretty helpful for me just to get in kind of a groove for sure.
Definitely. Coming out of the constructed chain meta where I only see half of my deck ever, it was like pretty cool to pitch to the bottom of my deck and then win with that pitch.
Yeah, totally.
It's like nice.
Yep.
Nice.
So yeah, had a great time, had a great dinner, woke up the next day, took care of our homework, got to the calling in plenty of time. And honestly, I was a little nervous for the logistics because how terrible tails went on Friday, that I thought, oh God, these rounds are 50 minutes long. There's 7 of them. I'm going to be here until 10 p.m., which wasn't the case, actually. It ran super smooth despite there being, 800 people at the main event.
Yeah, definitely. They did a good job with that.
Yeah. And so then it's the main event. So I'm playing my chain deck. I don't know why I said it that way. And the deck list will be in the show notes for this episode, along with Isaac's Levia list will also be in the show notes. So if you guys wanted to check those out, they will be there. Spoilers, Isaac played Levia, which is pretty awesome.
Spoilers to 2 minutes from now.
So the main event structure is day 1, 7 rounds of Swiss, cut to top 64 to make day 2, 4 more rounds of Swiss to make a total of 11, and then we cut to top 8 for that. And then if you go undefeated in top 8, you're the calling champion. So to not get into the weeds too much on Saturday, me, Isaac, Colin, Thomas, and Mitch are there. I'm on chain. Colin is on Prism. Mitch is on Wizard. Classic Johnny Blue Razor style.
Wild card.
Yeah, wild card. And Thomas is on Bravo. And you, Isaac, you're on Levia. And I think... So me, you, and Colin all win round 1.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't Mitch also? Or I can't remember.
I don't remember either. Thomas lost round 1.
Yeah.
I don't remember what order Mitch won in. Mitch lost round 1 or 2. I can't remember which one. Doesn't matter.
My point kind of in those early rounds is me, you, and Colin went 3-0, right?
Yep.
Or I think we went 4-0, actually.
I went 3-0.
I think we went 3-0 and then Colin dropped a game. But that was like really exciting. Once we were 3-0, we were like, oh my God, we're like doing it, Like all of us, this is so cool. Just that extra like friendship level of energy was like so fun at that moment on Saturday.
It's pretty fun to meet up after a round and have like all of your friends have won that round. Mm-hmm. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. It was insane. So how about you tell me kind of your kind of highlights, lowlights, whatever you want to talk about Saturday, rather than me just like kind of sitting here.
Sure. Yeah. Mine's pretty. I went 3-0 against Prism, Aggro Katsu, and Control Dash. I almost dropped the Katsu game to a miss block, but still pulled it out. But anyway, I went 3-0, and then I got high enough in the tables to start playing the good chain players, and started. Actually, my 4th game, I also. What's up, Zane? If you're listening, I felt like I was doing pretty good that turn. I was up 27-12 with a good hand and even a spare card to block. But then he, had, as chain does fairly often, had a 34 damage turn or whatever, and ended up winning that game. So I lost that one, and then I lost I lost to another chain player, and then I beat a Katsu, and then lost to another chain. Which, the cool thing about that Leviah deck is it can beat chain, but the bottom line, I think, is that it doesn't consistently, right? Like, and we we know other testing groups that put a lot of work into the Leviah, but then like end up taking chain, even if they don't have a lot of reps on it, just because it like consistently performs better. So I did not go in with any illusions of, winning out the chain matches, but was hopeful that I would, beat one or two maybe. So I went 4-3 on the day, which is a good result. And yeah, I guess that's about it. My calling day one was pretty normal. Pretty just average. Win up and then get to the top chain tables and lose.
Dang.
But that's all right. Again, I did not expect to just like win out. So.
Totally. I still think it is an admirable performance to be on like, the hardest character potentially to play and still have like a positive win record,
Yeah, thanks.
It's great.
And the thing, like, I chose not to bring Azalea as I always thought I would because she just auto loses to control. Whereas, like I said, Leviah beats control and can beat chain. But we tested that matchup a number of times beforehand, and it just feels like I kind of have to high roll them and not get high rolled back. So it's just a little bit tough. But it was a very fun deck to play, and yeah, a very rewarding experience. So anyway,
hell yeah,
that's my calling. Yeah, my deck list, which is definitely not optimized. I'm not as comfortable. I kind of switched to that deck at the end of Road to Nat season, so I'm like less confident in it than I am on Ranger. But I still very much like that list and would be happy to chat about it or answer any questions or whatever, and that will also be in the show notes. All right, that's my showing. What about your Saturday?
So I went 6-1 on Saturday. I think I was 5-0 before I dropped a game, so not really where I didn't want to drop the 6th round. If I was going to lose any, I wanted it to be the 7th round, just so I knew that I was going to make day 2. You know what I mean? Like when I lose in the 6th round, I have to win 7th round to have a chance to even top 8, right? But my whole goal going into the calling was to just literally make day 2, and then if I make day 2, make top 32. That was it. That was all I wanted to do, which is what I did. I wound up doing that, and I feel really good about that. But I guess my little takeaway, which I can get into later, is just like how really close I could have been to actually getting top 8, which I never thought was going to be possible going into that. And maybe if I had, maybe day 2 would have gone like a little bit better, but I'll get into that in my like takeaways or whatever.
Gotcha. Well, even making day 2 is like what, top 7 or 8% of players or something. That's a good showing.
Yeah.
Top 64 out of 950 or something like that. So,
Totally.
Good performance in of itself.
Yeah, I can't really be upset about anything. I've played in 2 Road to Nats, which were my first 2 like big, quote unquote bigger events for anything card competitive related, and then the calling first ever, to be at something that like tickles at a professional level tournament, right? Calling is still an open tournament, but it's like, your wins are rated, right? So you get like ELO rating for those. So first time doing that. So I can't be upset at all. It was like very cool and very good. And I'm like very happy. With that being said, and I'll get into all the psychology and stuff after we get through the recap. But just some highlights for me. I had to play like an aggressive Bravo list, like round 3. And it was, he was like almost late to the round, like in terms of getting like a match loss, which was pretty stressful to then have him flip over Bravo and be like, great, I have less time to do this, you know? And then it was stressful when he crippling crushed me turn 1. And then just kind of kept his foot on the gas the whole time. So it was like, you know, it was the first round where I was like, oh shit, I got to be fucking on point, you know?
Totally. And that's the worst turn 1. Bravo's been around since the beginning, right? Welcome to Wraith. And I think up since the dawn of time up till now, getting crippling crushed turn 1 is like the worst turn 1 that anybody can have.
Yeah, totally. And he got rid of my Ursa token or Eclipse off of that crippling.
Oh.
So it was like, great. If this game goes late, I've lost a huge piece. But I wound up winning that game just by doing a really good job, like managing the overall game state, like never letting health get too low and making sure I still was like pitching my deck, saving stuff to go wider, etc. You know, using my armor blocks really, really efficiently and that sort of thing. And I wound up killing him on his turn. I spent a long time on my like penultimate turn because I was like, for some reason in my brain, Nebula Blade was only going to attack for 1. And I think I was decked out at this point, and he was going to see, I was really worried that he was going to see me pitch invert for Nebula Blade and that he would then be able to like play around it, that he could save a card to block the arcane and not die or what. Anyway, it was impossible actually when it came down to it because he had to use his last card to block Nebula Blade or else he would die, which was pretty awesome. So then he had no cards in hand. I drew up and he goes to draw his cards and I said, no, you have to, I have invert. You're dead. And he just like, unfortunately had to sit there and think about it and was like, huh. I was like, well played, like good game. You know, he was like obviously upset. He thought he was going to win for sure, but he did not take into account like those things, which is fine. You know, it happens. But that was like super stressful because I was down to like also 1 life or something insane. Or I was like ahead a little bit and he still had like, he could have skull capped, right? He was going to go down to 1 health is what happened. It turns on skull cap and then he could like block invert and then I'm screwed because I have no cards left.
I just like your super smooth hero line at the end there. No, wait. I have invert. You're dead.
It wasn't that. It was something like, no, it was like he goes to drop and I said, wait, I have something. And then I just played invert.
Gotcha.
And I said like I banished 2 cards and deal you 2 arcane damage. And that was it.
Nice.
Yeah. Which is my favorite way to win. It sucks, but I love playing invert to win. It's like my favorite card. So that was a highlight. And then round 6, I lost to a gentleman named Shane, and he was part of the Hyperloops crew. Shout out to Star Wars Destiny.
Was Shane playing Shane?
Yeah, totally. It was like a whole
Hilarious.
little joke. Yeah. Which there was like a bit of foreshadowing in that game because we go to roll off and he rolls double 6s and I rolled double 1s. And I was like, well, that's just meaning he's only going to be hot for the roll. And then he just like blasted me off the table. Like I was just doggy paddling to stay above water. Basically, he just high rolled me so hard in the mirror. Which is like what those generic heavy flock chain decks can do is that they can just really lean into their high roll aspects way more than kind of a more consistent deck that I was on can do. So, so that sucked. But then that poor guy, he got DQ'd day 2 because he on accident added his Arsenal card to his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, you can see that happening to yours, or I can see that happening to me, but you just got to play it really tight.
Yeah, totally. I have done before in casual games, like kind of drunk late at night or whatever,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah. And then, you know.
But I was going to say about the, like, getting high rolled, you know, or like whooped by that. It just, you know, because I haven't played Chain this whole season, I've only played against it. It just like, you know, it happens and it sucks, but it just feels like it's part of playing against Chain, right? Like, because I lost that game 4 on 4 shackles to a, you know, 30 whatever damage turn. And, you know, and then in my last round, I lost to a Chain deck running, you know, Flocks and Consumings and Fate for Scenes and a bunch of those. But he hit every single banish up through turn 4 maybe, and then I think he missed one, which like seems pretty unfortunate. But again, just having played so many reps against Chain, you're just like, this just happens 1 out of 3 times, what, you know, which is like a pretty hard reality to deal with. That like, okay, you know, we play this game, I perform this well or whatever, and this is how the games go, and then 1 out of 3 games or 1 out of 4 games, you also have to deal with 35 damage surprise, you know.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's like a tough kind of X factor in the meta, you know. Or that's what I've found. It's
Yeah, you know, just the difference between that deck and the list I put together, they just have 2 separate theories on the strength of the deck, right? And the generic heavy lower blood deck count decks are, you know, it seems like the theory there is that you can just really, really go off, you know.
yeah.
If you're gonna go off, you can just really go off, you know. I mean, he also had like turn 3 a 30 damage turn against me or whatever, which freaking sucked.
Yeah, it seems like they have a much higher ceiling early, or potential ceiling, not consistent ceiling, but and then have a harder time into control.
Yeah,
is kind of the
and that's the baffling thing, right? Is that control is like still pretty prevalent in the meta at that time, right. And if you have like a bad matchup into control, I just don't know how you can feel comfortable going into those matchups, you know, or into the calling for that matter, you know. I suppose you just assume that there's just going to be more, the meta is going to be much more aggressive than it actually was at the calling.
Right. Well, we saw, I mean, in the end, in the finals match, right?
Yeah, like, control wins.
Control beats the, you know, generic heavy flock. I don't know that guy's exact list, but the, you know, flock.
Yeah, he had like trimmers Chain. And, you know, flock of the
the aggro Chain list gets beat by control. But, you know, which it should. That build struggles more into control, and then control won out. In the end.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic, I might, you know, I said this on Time in the Round, but it's a bit of the snake eating its own tail situation, right? Is that, you know, we have one kind of school of thought for Chain, and it's this like kind of consistent, you know, managing the game state and, you know, still making good exchanges and having like kind of a higher blood debt count to be more consistent off of your banishes, and that has like an above 50 advantage in like every single matchup, right? So you get that, and that really preys on control, you know. Like the earlier in the rounds I played against a Bravo who was on a control-ish strategy or whatever, and it just, you know, it's just too easy for my deck and stuff.
Chain deck just kind of auto wins against control.
Seems. A bit. The one that's like more consistent, and you still have to like pitch stack and that sort of thing and play till, you know, shackle 8, 9 or whatever. But then because of that, you kind of need to play something that can beat that. You know what I mean? And that's where we get that like other version of chain, right? That is just like, plays Art of War, gets go again, plays Flock, reveals another Art of War,
Yeah.
In it, you wind up going like 6 wide, and it's really, really hard to kind of deal with as the other aggressive deck across the table.
Yeah, that deck's just maybe a little, it's like more front end aggressive,
Yeah, it's like
It's just potential in the early game is much higher. Potential in the late game is much lower, right?
Right. Yeah. And then so those two decks kind of wind up consuming each other, kind of. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially at like a bigger event like this, or a big open event. And that's anyway. So we'll get more into that kind of in my wrap up thoughts, but so that was my Saturday, 6-1. I won my last round, which was great because that meant I was locked in for day 2. I wound up after the Saturday 7th round. I was in 14th place for day 2, which was pretty awesome.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty high up there.
Yeah, totally. Top 15. And yeah, it was great. I was really excited for the next day. Colin, I think, wound up 5-2. He was like 83rd place or something like that.
Yeah, on the Prism deck he loves, which I was pretty psyched because Colin has played and likes that deck the most and the best. So it was like pretty, congratulations, Colin. It was like pretty sick to see him, being successful with that deck and kicking some ass.
Yeah, totally. And being XN2 at your like also first calling is sick.
Yeah.
To only have dropped 2 games is really, really rad. Another thing about that I thought was just freaking Wildcats is I played 2 Kanos in Swiss and only had Null Rune 1. It was insane. It was nuts. So
yeah, and one almost got you. It was pretty tight.
Totally, it was very close.
Yeah.
He was like a resource short, which is nuts. But yeah, so Mitch was on Kano, so we had just played like a few Kano reps leading up to the calling, which I was like, helping my buddy out, not really helping me out. But I'm so thankful I got to play those reps now because I understood, my role in that matchup way better and was able to like just win, and I did not get Aether flared, thankfully, because then I just like lose, right?
Right.
You just get stir Aethered and then you're just like, cool, I block 1, take 5, and then, something else happens and it's +5 and you're just dead,
Yeah, Mitch, because you guys had played those games like the night before and maybe the morning of.
Yeah.
So Mitch was like, shit, I brought Kano 4 chain and I didn't see a single chain. And then, I was just prepping Taylor, who like didn't care,
Yeah, totally. So funny.
The one match you had was when you were both 4-0 or something. So that Kano was like on a pretty good rampage.
We were 5-0.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was intense. Yeah, I got back-to-back Stir Aether Spindled, and he opted 7 cards.
Oh my god.
Yeah, totally. He opts 7 the first time. I'm like, I'm dead. It's over. It for sure is over. And then I wasn't dead. And then I had my turn, and then I got Stir Aether Spindled again, and it was like, great. Now I'm definitely dead. And then I just wasn't. Somehow, by the grace of God, I did not die, which was amazing.
It's so funny playing against Kano because it always just feels like it's in their hands.
Totally. I just set my cards down as he sits there and does a bunch of math, and it's just wild. Yeah, it's like the only matchup I felt was like out of my control. And I was talking to Brendan and Dante, and they were like, "You didn't bring Null Rune 3? Are you crazy?" I was like, "I just didn't think I was going to see it." They're like, "In an open field like this, you just got to bring it because you never know. You don't want to drop." I was like, "That's so much smarter. You guys have way more experience than
Totally.
I do."
I also told you that beforehand.
Totally. And I was like an idiot telling you like, "No way. You're not going to see it." Ugh. but did.
But you pulled it out.
Yep.
Did it.
Totally did it. And then we had, what did we have? Sushi on Saturday night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, the whole COVID era and living rurally, I haven't had sushi in a while. So it's a little sidebar here. I really love sushi. And that was great.
Totally, yeah. We had a great time. Again, dinner with Brendan and Dante. It was excellent. And then Dante was pretty funny. Like, I think Thomas got like a 22-ounce beer, and Dante was like, "Holy shit, they come that," just like,
Yeah, because he's from Canada. And the Japanese beers are just large beers.
Yeah, little twink beers over in Toronto. And then
I think they have sushi, but anyway,
yeah,
that's neither here nor there.
So then day 2 comes around. Everybody but me, you guys are in the Pro Quest. So tell me about the Pro Quest on Sunday.
Oh, I actually, after playing Tails, I had a blast playing in the Pro Quest because I knew all of the cards, so I got to open my sealed and then spend some time thinking about it rather than having to like learn and try to, so I ended up playing Prism because that was my pull, and I went 4-2. Yeah, I need more reps at these organized events, which is just entirely my own fault. I went 4-2. I think I lost my third round, went to time. And on the next turn, I would have killed him like 100%, no doubt. But I just took the hatchet swing because, I didn't want a double loss.
Right.
So that was unfortunate. But honestly, we both could have played faster. So, partly my fault there. And then I lost round 5. Something.
It was 6 rounds, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, to get a chance to win, you have to go 6-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 5-1, maybe late, depending on how it stacks up.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I lost round 5, I think, in a Prism mirror. I mean, I also like had that one in the bag, but I just don't play Prism, and I thought the merciful interrupt would happen before the lethal damage because it reads like an interrupt.
Yeah.
And I could have blocked. I just didn't block because I thought it would kill him. And all of our listeners probably already know that, but if you don't, the lethal damage happens before the aura popping interrupt.
Yeah, because it's a replacement effect.
Right.
So you technically die before it has a chance to replace it.
Yeah, because it makes a stack and then resolves. Which, I think everybody knows, but it's like not how it reads, just intuitively. And the guy across from me plays Prism all the time, and he was like, yeah, they issued a whole thing about it, correcting it because nobody was playing it that way, because that's not how it reads. So anyway, it was just my, not knowing the rules or inexperience in organized play. My deck was like pretty average, but I just had 2 of the Dominate Heralds. One to get a weapon out, and then one to win the game later.
Is it Tenacity that has Dominate?
Yeah. So you just get a weapon out. You get Merciful, my only aura, out. And then I had 1 red Phantasmify plus the Dominate Herald. No Dreamweavers, though. So, yeah, that was just really fun, kind of relaxing, playing a format I knew with a new character was really good, really fun. I thought that was awesome.
Nice.
Colin and Mitch also played in the Pro Quest.
Yeah.
I can't remember how they did exactly, but yeah, so I went 4-2 in my second sealed again. And then after that played in the Tails draft. But do you want to talk about your day 2?
Yeah, day 2 for me. So with 1 loss, I have a chance still to top 8, but I have to go undefeated in the 4 rounds of Swiss. And it just, just wasn't my day. I think partly there were a couple of things at play there for me mentally. One was I just did not have the mental tenacity I needed on that day to actually top 8, and I just didn't think that it was going to be possible, you know. But then it did creep into my mind a little bit, like, oh, I could do this, because Brendan and Dante were like, you can do it, you know. They're kind of like getting my hopes up a little bit. So I was in this weird mental hinterland, right, where it makes you like a bit more nervous to play because of that. You know what I mean? Like my goals aren't clear. I'm not clear in my head and that sort of thing. And then first round, I got a deck check, just like a random one, which also happened round 6, my only loss on day 1, which is just really jarring. Like, they just come up right before you start to play, and they take all your cards, and then you have to sit there, and you get a time extension, and you're like off rhythm with the rest of the tournament. And it's just something that my inexperience in the tournament was like hard to, you know, kind of wrap my brain around or whatever. But my opponent was very nice, and I had a nice time. Will, part of the Fab Foundry squad.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that made it much more pleasant to just like sit there and watch everybody else play and that sort of thing. And so I won that first round, but the judging on day 2, and we'll get into this at the end here a little bit more in depth, but they were much more shitty for lack of a better term. And, you know, that's probably a host of factors. Like, it's a long day for us as players. It's got to be a long day for them as judges and that sort of thing. So we just, because we were the last game left, we had a lot of judges around, and one guy was sitting very close to me, which is like really uncomfortable, but is maybe part of the game. I don't know. And we had 10 minutes left in the round, and I had double invert, and my opponent only had 1 resource up and had the husk. And so, you know, so the winning play is I banish cards. He takes 4 damage and then dies from blood debt, right? And there's 10 minutes left in the round, and he knows he's going to die. I know he's going to die. I just have to make sure I don't mess it up and banish too many cards and he kills me before he dies from his blood debt, right? And so I go through his graveyard, get 3 cards. I'm looking for the last one and go back through. And it's maybe been, I don't even know, not even 2 minutes. And the judge, who is right next to me, way too close, just like in a kind of disrespectful tone, told me that I needed to make a decision. And I had to take a second and look at him like, really? Like, there are 10 minutes left. My opponent hasn't said anything. And if you knew how this game actually worked, you would know that this is like the final nail in the coffin. And there's nothing my opponent can do about it. So please back off, was my look. And so I just said, okay. And then like continued to take my time and made my choice. And then the game was over, you know.
Well, it's a good thing you had those 9 minutes left, though. You know?
Jesus Christ. And then in round, and then for me, then I dropped the next 2 games, which was pretty tough. I lost to Control Prism, and I got pretty tilted in that game because I got tripled Arclight Sentinel right in a row, right at the end, as I had like done a great job like pitching my deck, saving all of my stuff. You know, I have triple Red Riftbind, 2 Howls, I think all but 2 Seeds. All are in my banish zone. I have like the nuts, you know? And so I like spinned out my little bit of like, you know, trying to play around it a little bit to see if he has it. He does. Cool. Didn't lose anything. Has it a second time. Fuck. That sucks. You know, no way he's got it the third time. Boom. Totally does. And he just like totally blows me out as he just like incrementally lost my like resources for the turn, you know?
Yeah, chip down your banish zone.
Yeah, totally. My resources in terms of like how to win the game.
Yeah.
Which was like pretty upsetting. I did get my Urser out, but he only had 1 card in Soul, so it's like I can't play it first because he's just gonna like get rid of Go again, and then if I shackle, he can, it's just like this whole thing. And it was kind of, in hindsight, I would have sideboarded slightly differently for that matchup. But it is what it is. So then like my dreams are crushed, which was fine. I was like a little tilted, and then I lost again, just getting absolutely hosed by another like high roll chain deck that was running Fate for Scenes. And so he like Fate for Scenes me on my hit effects 2 turns in a row, then has a big Soul Reaping turn, then has another just like 30 damage turn out of nowhere with like 1 banished card that he could use. And I was just like so upset. And then won my last round and ended up 8-3 and was 25th place. Made $200.
Great job.
Yeah, totally. Hard to relive that now on the podcast. The feelings are real. But like I said, I can't be upset. It's exactly what I came to do, and I did it, and that is a really awesome feeling to be 8-3, top 32. It's my only, adds up to 4 losses overall between Road to Nats and the Calling on the same deck. So it's like pretty sick,
Yeah,
when you put it in that kind of perspective.
Definitely. Well, let's talk a little bit about like, and not to put words in your mouth, but it like, it's probably it's probably a little hard to talk about because
those were just words in my mouth, not anything else.
Just in your chain journey, right? You played around with the deck and then kind of teched a more blood debt heavy chain deck in order to be able to beat control and contest with aggro, right? So like on the ratio of blood debt cards, you like moved a little more heavy blood debt in order to have a more consistent deck that could deal with these different types of threats. Mm-hmm. So then to lose a couple of these rounds to a more generic heavy, less blood debt heavy chain deck that again is maybe more aggressive on the front end, but then we see in the finals losing to control. Mm-hmm. It's like this this kind of cycle that you're like at the unfortunately the wrong turn in the cycle or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
totally. That like if the meta does one more click, right, then it's like in a better spot for what I have been working on this whole time.
Right, like if more control shows up or makes it through, and like shuts down more of the generic heavy chain decks, then your deck may perform better, or...
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like this is all theoretical, but right. It just,
Yeah, that's the crazy part, right? That I was unprepared. That was part of the game at such a large event that we now know is that when you go to a big open event like this, right, not invite only, anything can happen, right? In the number of players compared to the rounds of Swiss we had, there were many different paths through Swiss to go 7-0, X and 1. Some people played almost only chains. Some people didn't play against chains. Some people didn't even play against control archetypes, right? It was just like you play against 2 Kanos and they make up 2% of the field. You know what I mean? So it's, that's a little, was jarring at the time, to feel that like I have a really good deck that goes into the field, but the field is a little different than I had thought it would be. Like, I think this is one of my big downfalls is I've been assuming that everyone is going to make the leap in logic, right? Like, right, this is how A plus B equals C, right? But people just go A plus B, got it, right? And I'm thinking about what that equals is C, and not everybody thinks that way. And so I have to like dial back a bit of my, I suppose, expectations, or we all do, right? Because this is all new for all of us.
Yeah, well, I think it's also like that, right? Like you expect another step to be taken by a lot of players, but there's also the factors of like people love certain characters, right?
Totally.
And don't care about winning the call, right? Like, I really like playing Levia and was not realistically trying to win the calling. So you might face a Levia,
Right. Yeah.
So all of those factors. There's also the the player that's really good on Wizard and like can day 2 actually.
Which there was one.
Yeah. So there's a lot of wild cards in those terms, right?
Yeah.
Which, like you said, it's such a large event, you could easily face any number of those kind of X factors.
Yeah.
In your, meta plan.
Or none,
Right. Oh,
microphone, mic down.
Nice catch, though.
Thanks.
Still got it.
I still got it. I could have faced, control the whole time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just strictly bravos on fatigue strategies or something like that.
Yeah, it was just a wild switch, right? Because there were some decks that, control deck would go 7-0, make day 2, and then just get blown out by the wrong type, or by its weak matchup. 7-0, and then just get annihilated day 2. Which let me just explain how the calling worked for a second. So you played 7 rounds of Swiss day 1, and then you went into day 2 for 4 more rounds of Swiss, but it was a continuation of the first day's Swiss.
Right.
So you did not start over with clean slates and everybody had a chance. It was like if you managed to make day 2 but had a 5-2 record from day 1, that record carries over and you pretty much had 0 chance of top 8ing.
Yeah, 100%. Mathematically impossible.
Yeah, which I thought was, I'm not a tournament organizer. It just feels like maybe there could be a slightly better system, just because it feels bad that if you make day 2 and have 0 chance of top 8ing and it's no cause for celebration at all, it just feels a little bad maybe, and I understand you can play for placement and play for prize money and maybe that's great or something, but it just feels like, maybe you just play top 32 and start with a fresh record or just something to make day 2, to squeaking in to the day 2 tournament be awesome for everybody who makes it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think, and this is where we can kind of start talking about kind of our critiques or overall feelings or whatever. But yeah, that's one of my big ones, is that how do you incentivize or reward someone who goes 7-0 and reward someone who bubbles in at, this 60, 61, 62, 63, 64 spot, right? And to where they're incentivized to actually play. Because so many people just dropped and went and played the Pro Quest on Sunday,
Good enunciation.
Thanks. My mic falling has thrown me off a bit. So how do you do that? Do you do an extra round of Swiss? Do you reseed everybody based on their record so that then all of your 7-0s play the people who bubbled in? Right.
But with fresh records.
With fresh records, yeah. So you could come from the bottom to the top or whatever. I don't really know. There needs to be, and it could be a product of the event, the scale not being fully known, and they just got to, they're like, I don't know, 11 rounds, or whatever. So that would be better if it's scaled better with the number of players.
Yeah, definitely.
And honestly, I don't really mind the pressure of having to go have, whatever record to do stuff. But I do mind that, if I had come in at 56th place on day 2, that, what am I actually playing for?
Right.
$200 in top 32.
Yeah. Which is definitely bragging rights and a very cool achievement.
Yeah.
But is, playing with no hope of progressing is, less fun, maybe.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, that's the calling. Overall, I felt, like I said, great about it. And I would make those kind of changes to the format for sure.
definitely.
Yeah. And then you talked about the ProQuest. Let's talk about one other of our critiques, which is kind of judge calls.
Sure.
Or just the judging in general.
Yeah, I'll lead this off. And this isn't like, a lot of the judges were very nice, and this isn't like a critique about them personally. I think it's more about like Channel Fireball's training maybe, or just their preparation. Because there were like quite a lot of incorrect judge rulings throughout the tournament, which may get better as the game, ages, and judges are better trained or like just have more experience. But there were just a number of calls,
which I'll preface this too. It is not in the casual side events, right? We're talking about the calling main event where every win matters, and in the ProQuest where every win matters as well.
Yeah, I did witness some things in side events as well, but like a couple things. In a main event, a judge had a misruling on how reprise works. Like, reprise checks for the reprise trigger when played, not when resolved. So that was just flat out wrong. Another judge...
And he ruled that although you're blocking from hand after playing a card with reprise...
Yeah, he ruled then when the reprise card resolves, it triggers.
That it triggers, which is totally wrong. Yeah.
Another player that I played in the ProQuest, was undefeated up until this point, and then had a judge misrule on the Bolton Go Again trigger with Blinding Beam. And while I was playing this player, the judge came up and profusely apologized for his misruling, and was like just so sorry and like felt so bad about it. But this misruling had cost the player their chance at the ProQuest, and they'd been doing very well up until this point. And this misruling, got him out of it. And I think the player had actually, argued it and called for a second opinion, and then they still misruled it, which is just like, this is a national level tournament with like big reward. Like, people want to win the ProQuest, right? It's like a point of fame, and so that I don't know how they ended up resolving it in the end or what happened, but it was already a loss. They'd already moved on, and it's just like
and so the situation was that he had played Blinding Beam and as a layer in a reaction step before the Bolton player had given it Go Again, right? I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there, but yes.
Well, so the card's attack value base was then not higher,
right?
So then Bolton could not give it Go Again, right,
or then it loses Go Again when checking,
right, or whatever is the kind of scenario there, which is wrong. If it does not have higher than its base, it cannot gain Go Again,
right?
Yeah.
So anyway, just calls like that are like, I mean, whatever. I still had a great time, but like things like that are like pretty unforgivable in a like nationally competitive tournament.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, and there were like other things I heard and, witnessed and stuff, but it was just like very poor, I guess, judge training or preparation. And it's like a very complicated game. I lost a game for not knowing the Prism rules, Yeah, it's like pretty understandable, but again, like, no matter how difficult the game, you need the judge to know the rules. That's just kind of the bottom line. Anyway, is there anything you want to add to my little tangent there?
No, I already talked about like my kind of, the power tripping judges on day 2 type of deal, and it might be something people are more tolerable to than myself, but having had a history as a sports person and a person who coaches sports and has had a lot of run-ins with officials and stuff. I've never like gotten a technical or anything for being a dick, but like just the effect that the person who is the referee or the judge or whatever has on the atmosphere of the game and the outcomes and stuff cannot be overstated, right? I think some people miss that part of games and stuff, that if you're an official, you're a judge, your presence and your ability to affect the game is greater than you maybe perceive it to be, right?
Right.
And, that is maybe a perspective that some officials and that sort of thing do not have.
Yeah, and in like your particular example, it's not really it's just maybe a lack of understanding of the nuances of the game so much, or a lack of experience, right? Because in your game with 10 minutes left on your kill turn, it's generally accepted that you can take a little bit longer to make decisions on that turn because it's obvious you won't go to time, right?
Right.
So like in general, when we played in the past in casually or tournaments, it's just like, on that last complex turn, you just take a little longer.
Yeah, totally. Dot your T's, cross your I's, sort of deal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, so hopefully that will only improve in the future. I'm sure they will iron it out, hopefully for future callings, but definitely for nationals.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Once the game is around longer and people have more chances to officiate it and play it and stuff, it should be a lot easier. So,
right.
Cool. Anything else? I think that I've covered all of my feelings about it and stuff,
No, I think that's just about it. Just again, the kind of mind fuck the calling event itself, the meta was pretty nuts, right? To see like control Prism, control and aggro Bravos, Kanos poking up. Did not see hardly any aggro Katsus.
Yeah, totally. Very surprising.
Blew my mind. I actually played a very good aggro Katsu round 2 and like squeaked out a win. Which I was afraid, I thought that was my worst matchup, but then like in hindsight now I'm like, no, Chain's everybody's worst matchup. That deck's just so good.
Yeah, totally. I'll add in 2 things here. One, the calling, huge success. Yeah, right? Yeah. Huge success. The game is very healthy. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. Overall, what a great community. Then the other thing I'm going to add here is shout out to Tiffany, who's going to be a future guest on the pod.
Yeah.
So we are super anti Sabres Bolton. Sorry if we just lost some listeners. Go ahead and tweet at me at BattleBroTaylor why you love the worst, stupidest deck.
Yeah, I got 2 fucking Sabres for you, Taylor.
Yeah, why you love that stupid deck. Tiffany in the mirror, right? She's on Bolton with Raiden. A civilized deck versus just pure garbage Sabres Bolton. They go for the combo, and Tiffany just shuts him down. She red shunts one of them.
Oh yeah, armor's another one. Non-attack action's another one.
Yeah, totally. And then it's just over. One of the most baller moves I heard about.
Totally.
Just red shunt and just yeah, I got it. And you take 1 damage. Suck it. It was just great. So shout out to you, Tiffany. Excited to have you on the podcast later.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about that. I'm gonna explain a little bit, or at least speak for myself. I am not a fan of Bolton Saber. I think that deck can be...
You don't need to be defensive, man. No, everybody knows why it sucks, and they still choose to play it.
I think that deck can perform pretty well, right? It can be pretty good. I just don't think that deck is a good choice because you are kind of, and again, I could be wrong, or you can fucking yell at me or whatever. But it just seems...
At BattleBro Isaac on Twitter.
It doesn't seem like a good choice because you're, to some degree, relying on luck, right? In the chain meta, you're not going to see half your deck. So you're just drawing the pieces... Yes. And hoping to pull it off before you get killed.
We're all aware.
But then if you don't draw those few pieces, you just auto lose, right? So it's just to me, it's just not a good meta call. Maybe if the game's a lot slower, right, then you can always pull off that combo, it'll be good. But it's just, and then you need your 5-card hand to pull it off. It's hit effects, too easy to pressure.
You're just preaching to the choir here.
Well, I'm talking to our listeners, not just you.
Our listeners are on board.
But I'm just saying the power level of that deck is not too low. You're just kind of rolling the dice in every matchup.
Funniest part on the drive home, it's like kind of silent. Out of nowhere, Isaac goes, the lowest point in Flesh and Blood has to be Saber's Bolt and Mirror, right? And we just like burst into laughing. Oh, God, it was so good. Anyway, let's start
waiting around till something happens.
It's just like, you got it? No. You got it? No. You got it? No. Let's start to wrap this beast up.
Sure. Do you want to talk at all about the moving out of this, or you want to save that for our video pod?
We're running out of time. We're going to get to a pre-release.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, goodbye, everyone. We no, I'm just kidding. We got a couple of segments first.
Yeah. Okay, so here comes Pick, Pass, Pray. Draft scenario. I'm going to give you 3 cards. You're going to pick one, pass one, and pray one comes back around. Are you ready?
Yes.
Cool. First up is Hooves of the Shadow Beast. Shadow Brute equipment, legs, blocks for 1. Whenever a card with 6 or more power is put into your banish zone, you may destroy Hooves, and if you do, you gain an action point, and it has Battle Worn. Okay? Second card, Warmongers. I was just trying not to say rectal the whole time. Warmongers Recital.
Even during the first part.
Red. Pitches for 1, costs for 1, defends for 2. It's a generic action that reads, the next attack action card you play this turn gains +3, and if it hits, put it on the bottom of your deck. Go again. Third card, Red Brandish, which is a generic attack action. Pitches for 1, costs 1, attacks for 3, defends for 2. And if Brandish hits, your next weapon attack this turn gains +1. Go again. If you know how to flaunt it, you barely need to use it. So, Isaac, which one are you going to pick, pass, and pray comes back around?
Warmonger's Recital.
Boom, slams
Without
it.
a doubt.
Yeah.
Non-attack actions can be good in like certain characters, but also I feel like good buffs are maybe fewer in this set, and just the added hit effect of going on the bottom for late game is really good. This card's just really good. Works in every character and is really good in every character. Enough said. I am going to... See, this I'm a little unsure about. I think I'm going to pray that Brandish comes back around. There's actually even just used Brandish in a Prism deck and pumped my aura, which was sick. But there's a number of like, you know, the weapons in this set are all right, and it would pump all of them. The auto go again's good tempo, right? You come in, it's threatening 4 damage go again, just automatically. So I think that's a good early pull if it does come back, just for another solid red generic. I want to say Hooves, just Levia has so many moving parts that choosing a Levia piece really early, especially if you're competing with somebody else picking Levia, you just might not get all the components for that deck. So while I think Hooves is an awesome addition to it, I think you would have to see them later on when you have a little bit more going into that deck, unfortunately. But anyway, that's my pick, pass, pray. What do you got?
Well, I thought we were going to agree on this one for the first time in podcast history.
Never.
But it's going to be close. So I'm going to pick Warmonger's Recital also because of all of the reasons you listed. And for like a blue, you basically can come in for, 9 or, 10 even sometimes pretty easily. And yeah, like you said, it's just good in every deck for sure. And yeah, it's a great red card. It's definitely a pick one for sure. But I'm going to pray that Hooves comes back around. It's a really strong piece of equipment. And if I am going to go Levia, it's the one I want. Definitely over Brandish. It will do a lot more in my deck than Brandish will do. Even though I really like Brandish because of, It works really well with stubbies, which can be really good on the right turn and that sort of thing. Yeah, and that's just like a really good like card that has go again. It just doesn't hit that break point that I really want it to. So that's the one I'm going to pass on. So pick Warmongers, pray Hooves comes back, and pass on Brandish.
Gotcha. Good argument. You may be right.
Thank you. I usually am.
I do like Brandish just because just in limited there's so many block for 2s that 3 is actually not the most terrible break point you could hit.
Yeah.
But still, good argument. 4 would be much better.
Totally. Okay, Isaac, you have a
Riddle me this. Perfect. Okay, my riddle me this is actually, I think, 3 cards total, but we'll use Blossoming Spellblade as the example. I think there is one for each hero, if I'm not mistaken, in the new Tales of Aria set. And my riddle me this about these cards is these Majestics that are very powerful have, like, Blossoming Spellblade has both Earth and Lightning fusion. It's not and or, it's and. So in order to play this card, you have to pitch 2 to play it, and then you have to have a Earth card and a Lightning card in your hand to play it. If you have an embodiment of Lightning token, you will have go again and then can maybe play those cards, but it just feels too card hungry and too specific for my brain. Will the payoff be worth it? Is this card going to be very powerful and rocked in, or, you know, all these cards, are they going to be very powerful and rocked in all these decks? Or are they just too specific, right? Is it not consistent enough?
Right.
Riddle me this.
Awesome. I think that's a great one, and time will tell.
It will. I didn't know what Vestige of Soul did initially, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, in the right deck for sure.
Yeah, in Prism.
Yeah.
So, what next?
Game from the Closet.
Oh, nice. And up next,
I'm sitting here giving
Taylor
Isaac
was
eyes
signaling
and
me, and I'm
signaling
like, I don't know.
come on, yeah.
So, and we had a blast playing board games last night, actually, too, or at least I did.
Yeah.
Here at the Attack Action Podcast, we play a lot of board games, and we love very many of them. So sometimes we like to recommend one to you guys, in case you like to branch out also, or maybe play some cooperative games and have some beers with buddies and just get away from Fab for a little bit. So this is not, the best game in the world. It's just a game we love and would love to share with you. Taylor, do you have a board game from your closet you'd like to share?
I do. I recently replayed my copy of Flamme Rouge, which is a cycling race simulator, basically. So you build a track that has like ascents and descents, and you get 2 racers, and you have 2 decks of cards that have different values on them. You basically have like a consistent racer and a sprinter. And so you're really vying for position to try to cross the finish line first in the game. And initially I was like, I don't get the strategy. But the most recent time I played it, I had way more fun than I had anticipated. You're trying to get like slipstream and draft off of opponents, and you're trying to like hit the right zone on the ascent so you can like kind of use the correct number during that, or like during the descent you're trying to use lower valued numbers to get a boost because you're going faster, etc. So there was like a lot more to manage and was quite a bit more fun this time around, and there was like kind of more strategy than I had initially thought the first time. And I think it has some pretty good expansions, which I don't have. But I will be playing Flamme Rouge again because of that.
Nice. Old red flame.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Good artwork.
Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds great. Kind of makes me want to play it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we should one time.
Totally. We got a pre-release to get to first.
Hell yeah.
We got any more segments?
That's it.
Nice. Well, we are on Discord. Mr. Beefhammer, Ejac. The Falcon of the West, and Ejac. We are on the Attack Action Podcast at gmail.com. We're on Twitter. I've done enough talking, I think. Battlebro Taylor at Battlebro Isaac. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Some of these platforms, I at least have been slacking on a little bit with the busy road to Nats and work and calling and all that, but we will try to pick it up a little bit. We're on YouTube, and look out for new fancy shiny new YouTube productions coming soon, and we'll blast those all over the place too. So is that it? Did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
Nice. We have a Patreon, please, for if you value our content, for price of a beer.
Yeah,
we won't take your beer. Price of a cup of coffee.
Yeah, is great. It's a double entendre or a double llama or whatever it's called. It's like 4 is a great break point for attacks, right? So that's why it's 4. I don't know if that helps sell it at all, but maybe it does.
I don't know. 8 dominate if that's more your speed.
Is our second tier. Cool. Well, thanks again. Thank you, Isaac, as always. I don't actually ever thank you on the pod, but I really appreciate you being the handsome face of the podcast,
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Sorry I don't bring the mustache, that you do.
Or any sort of like good takes or anything, but at least you're very good looking. And so that helps. No, but really, thank you. I appreciate you, and I can't do this without you. And I, just having been talking about our podcast in our humble beginnings, I need you, and thank you.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what
welcome.
I'm trying to say.
Thank you too.
I'm starting to cry over here.
It's been a blast, really. What a ride.
Totally. All right, let's go fuck up some nudes at our pre-release. How's that sound?
Definitely. Let's get them.
I'm coming for you, Troy. You're going down, bro.
Right. You were included in that noob label, Troy.
Yeah, you don't listen to the pod anymore, and this is your folly. Is people are talking trash behind you. You don't even know it. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.